Employers and managers who had to fire their best employee. What happened? Story 1. Had a guy who worked his ass off, daily inputting data into spreadsheets. He would come in, put in solid hours of actual work, no goofing off. He was literally getting 4 times as much done in a week as anyone else in the office. After 3 weeks straight of this, other people started to take notice and occasionally asked him to help them out when they were behind, and he obliged. This got worse and worse, and eventually, people were basically just walking all over him while they spent all day on Facebook and whatnot, because he wouldn't say no if they asked him to help with their work. The dude just kept trucking through, though. About 4 months into working there, it had gotten to the point where you could hear the extra cunny girls talking about leaving early and not getting in trouble because he will just do all the work for us if we ask anyway. Well, the guy goes into the boss's office, and I worked right next to it, so I could hear more or less the entire conversation. I'm paraphrasing, but it went something like this. I would like a raise. I am doing way too much work for how much I am getting paid. Everyone else here is so damn lazy. I even have people making jokes about how I will do their work for them while they still get paid for it. Well, name. I can sympathize with you, but you have to understand, I can't just give you a raise. If I give you a raise, I would have to explain to everyone why you got a raise and they didn't. You could tell them it's because I am doing half of their work for them while they look at stupid memes. I'm sorry, name. It just wouldn't work out well. Well, then, are there any positions available above mine that I could apply for a promotion to? I don't think we can really look into a promotion this early into your time here. We would need time to properly evaluate your work ethic. Seriously? You seriously just said that to me? I'm not going to break my back doing an entire office's work for a company that doesn't give 2 shits about me. You and this entire office can go fuck yourselves. He walked out of the office fuming mad and yelled, "Hey everyone, boss, just denied my raise, so no more leaving work early for any of you lazy fuckheads, 'cause I fucking quit." It was like a scene from Office Space, only in real life. Story 2. We hire a lot of people in recovery who are part of the drug court program, under the condition that they will be terminated if they go back to jail for drug or alcohol charges. One of our co-workers was our hardest worker, always picking up shifts and receiving tons of compliments. So it really sucked when she relapsed, failed her drug court P-test, and got sent to jail for a week. Unfortunately, we had to fire her. I still kept in touch with her, and when I found out she was pregnant, I convinced my boss to give her one last chance and hire her back. I'm so happy I wasn't wrong. She's about to celebrate her 4th year of sobriety, and she's now in management. Story 3. I used to work for Dell from 1998 to 2000 in their sales department. This was just before people started ordering online, so it was still a call center. To make a really long story short, I was one of their best sales reps, top 3 every month, and I was making about $5,000 a week as a 23-year-old. Then, they decided to replace me and most of my team, with temps making $11 an hour with no commissions. Only I didn't know this at the time. I was given a great opportunity to train a new class of incoming salespeople. Little did I know, I was training our replacements. Once they hit the floor and were up and running, they fired me and about 200 other salespeople. Fuck Dell. Oh, and a few years later, even the temps got fired so they could move all those jobs to a call center in India. Story 4. Not me, but I was working in retail, and one of the customer service guys was being groomed for management. He'd been there for a while, was trusted to count money, had the safe combination, and could open it if managers couldn't, etc. He was a cool black guy. His race is important to the story, but a bit cocky and arrogant. My cousin also worked there, who was also cocky and arrogant. Anyway, my cousin put in his 2 weeks but wasn't being a bad employee. He didn't like the soon-to-be manager, probably because they were pretty similar in a lot of ways, and they clashed because of it. On my cousin's last week, unprovoked, he walks up to the guy and says, "You look like a big black dildo." The guy walks up to my cousin, puts his finger to his forehead and says, "Do you have a problem with me?" It ended there with my cousin walking away, then reporting that he had been threatened. Because a finger made contact, the guy was fired. My cousin was a dick, didn't regret it, and laughed about it with my other friends, who were also dicks. Story 5. I work in retail. One of the checkout staff was amazing. She would constantly come up and help in our cafe. She was fast, great with customers, and we received so many compliments about her that we asked if we could have her work with us permanently. Then she stole a pin. Security caught her on camera, and she was fired immediately. Edit. It was a fancy pin, packaged on a shelf to be sold. She was right under the security camera when she took it. Security saw, reported it to higher management, and I don't think stealing, regardless of what it is, can just be ignored. I believe they probably did it as a warning to other employees. Like, this is what happens if you steal. Story 6. Scott was my riding buddy. We rode everywhere together on our motorcycles. I managed a small restaurant that was part of a tiny chain. Only 2 locations at the time, but it was growing. When a night manager position opened up, I gave it to him. He worked hard and was enthusiastic. A couple of years passed, and now there were 5 locations. I had become the general manager, and Scott was managing the original store. We still rode together, swapped girlfriends, played pool. Life was good. Then Scott started missing our planned rides because he was working. He really was a hard worker, full of tireless energy. I soon noticed that he was working so hard because he was understaffed. His employee turnover rate was unusually high. At first, I assumed it was just the nature of that location. Young employees coming and going, but there was more to it. I started spending more time around him and realized that, when he thought I wasn't looking, he was a tyrant of a boss to the kids who worked there. Employees kept quitting, and he covered it up by working more himself. Overworked and exhausted, he became an even worse boss. I gave him some time off, sent in experienced employees to help, and worked with him on training and communication. I thought he was absorbing it, but I kept getting reports that he was worse than ever. I finally sat him down for a serious, job-threatening talk. He argued, insisting he had things under control, but he didn't. I took his keys and handed him a box of his belongings. This was a long time ago, the early 80s. As the recession wound down, I found a better gig that suited my skills and education. I heard from Scott a few times after that, usually when he needed something, a fake recent reference, a cosign for a loan, something shady. I don't do that for anybody. Last year, I got a sad call from him. He told me he wished we had stayed in touch. We both still rode. Actually, he didn't still ride. He was calling from his deathbed, as cancer ate away the last of him. I've always felt that hiring him for a position he wasn't truly ready for set him on the path from an enthusiastic, bright-eyed kid full of hope and integrity to the sad, narcissistic bill collector he became. Story 7. I managed a coffee shop, bakery. My best employee was this kid named Alexis. He was sharp and quick to pick up all the skills required to work in our fast-paced environment. But he was also someone who stayed out really late partying, and it affected his attendance. One night, he calls me up and tells me he's stuck in Baltimore. We live in DC, and won't be able to make it in for his shift the following morning. He called me at 7 p.m. The last marked commuter train leaves at around 9:30, and there's a free circulator that runs throughout the city. At the time, I visited Baltimore pretty regularly because I was seeing a girl up there. Anyway, I only had 1 day off a week and was working 14-hour days. This was the last straw in a series of no-call, no-show situations where he had left me hanging on our busiest days. That same night, I called his phone and told him that if he didn't show up for his shift on time the following morning, he was fired. He didn't show up, and I never saw him again. This was a few years ago, but I sometimes wonder what happened to him. He was a really sharp kid, but he did way too many drugs and wasn't as clever as he thought he was. He often got into trouble with the police. Story 8. I worked in a restaurant at a hotel chain where management regularly found meaningless reasons to suspend employees or cut their hours. There was one guy who had been there for almost 13 years. Clients loved him, staff appreciated his presence, and he often came to the rescue whenever anyone needed help. Everyone could depend on him, and he supported the whole team. Like everyone in the restaurant industry, he had bumped heads with management from time to time, but nothing major. One particular season, management decided they were going to groom him for more responsibility. The new position would eliminate his right to tips but came with insurance, a retirement plan, and steady pay. He had kids, was in his mid-40s, so it made sense why he would take the job. The catch? He would no longer be part of the union. Fast forward to the day after his training was complete. He comes in wearing his management uniform and everything. A waiter calls in sick, and instead of calling in another employee, he decides to handle a few tables himself while managing the shift. At the end of his shift, the hotel manager, the boss of his boss, summons him into his office. They fire him on the spot. He's escorted out of the building, and our direct boss tells us there are strict rules against management waiting tables because it harms the hotel's image. Complete B/S. He had maybe taken 2 tables and split the rest among the staff. Everyone basically agreed that they had promoted him just to strip him of his union protection and fire him without consequence. A number of employees left shortly after for various reasons. It was like they were shaking up the coop. Anyone who wouldn't fall in line was shown the door. Today, that restaurant no longer exists. It closed down maybe 2 years later, rebranded from an American steakhouse to an Italian/French dining concept. New cooks, new waiters, new management. But that moment felt like the catalyst. The first domino. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, activate the notification bell, and share a similar story or anything you'd like to say in the comments. See you next time.